What is good? We're back. We got some redraft for your pleasure. We're going to go with some skyrocketing players right now. I'm going to talk a little wide receivers and running backs. We got 6, 7, maybe 8 guys. We'll see how fresh and funky we're feeling at the end of this. Chev, how you doing today?
You know me, brother. Any day on this Saturday, it's a good one.
That's right. That's right. And these guys are skyrocketing above the dirt right now. So these are players that, we saw do some good stuff in the preseason. People are excited about them, whether it's injury or other things we saw on the field. So we're going to kind of talk whether we like it and we're in at kind of cost and some ranking players around them, or we're not really digging it. So I think the first one we got to get to is Treyvon Henderson, right? We've talked about him a little bit, obviously plenty on the Dynasty show, but first touch in the preseason, he goes yard with it. And then, has another explosive play with a catch here. Right now, coming in around 601 FFD redraft ADP, non-super flex, one quarterback, non-tight end premium. So used to the super flex tight end premium on the other side of things. We're one quarterback, no premium, so just standard PPR. He's coming in around 601.
Missionary PPR.
That's right. He's coming in around 601. Some other players kind of coming in around him at that ADP right now. We got Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy, George Pickens, a couple players under him, Travis Hunter, Calvin Ridley, Sam Laporta, and TJ Hawkinson, right? So just a mix of different positions there. So, I had him kind of pulled off to the side of my rankings because I didn't really know what to do with him. Now I've kind of solidified him into a spot, but I'm not sure if he needs to go up any higher or any lower. So what's your general feelings on Treyveon and where you kind of have him settling in?
So we spoke about this during the live show, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, like I wanted to fade. I wanted to believe that, the smart play was to make Ramondre Stevenson a value, but I'm having a hard time keeping these alligators down when we're talking about Treyvon Henderson. He's coming in 601. I mean, after this weekend, and then I don't know about you guys, but I'm a sucker for the consistent drumbeat of camp reports, and every day you're hearing about him doing something cool, scoring a long touchdown, being involved in the passing game, and I'm about ready to throw caution to the wind and just say, cool, I'll just take whatever comes of Treyvon Henderson in the 6th round. So I'm willing to reach on him by a round now. Like he's just doing more of the stuff we saw him do at Ohio State. And now, like, it's actually tailored. I feel like it's going to be more tailored towards his skill set. You see the quote from Josh McDaniels where he talks about, we've had these types of backs, but there's never been a back like him with this type of game-breaking speed. So I want to be early to this party. So I'm willing to go. He's at the 601. I'm willing to go into the 5th, depending on who's on the board. And I'm willing to pick Treyvon Henderson, especially if I'm kind of thin at running back. If I go early running back and then I fill up the receivers and then I'm back on the clock in the 5th round, that might be my pick.
Yeah, I don't see myself taking him early 5th just yet. Probably have to be late. And around his ADP, I'm cool with it. I don't know if I'm quite ready to start reaching too high. There's still a chunk of players here that I'm pretty interested in. I do think that there's going to be some up and down games from Treyveon, at least to start the season, right? I could see people in the redraft spectrum getting a little gun shy there early on potentially, or this thing could, the Band-Aid could get ripped off early. The PPR floor most likely could be there. RJ Harvey's a guy who comes to mind. We've been excited about him and his PPR floor. I don't think we're quite at the RJ Harvey floor, which we've seen kind of from Sean Payton over the last 2 years, right? Of just how much they're going to target backs. So kind of the battle between RJ Harvey and Treyvon Henderson is, I just think RJ Harvey is going to be a little bit more reliable on the work end of things and the PPR floor. So I think I would still be in camp RJ Harvey here over Treyvon Henderson, right?
It's getting much closer is what I'm trying to say. And so, you saw RJ Harvey get the work. He showed out. He represented himself really well. He didn't do anything to hurt his stock. It's just that when you see a guy running that fast and it's like, oh, this is what Treyveon, this is going to translate. Now, again, it's one preseason game. It's against backups. But again, I'm willing to reach because I think that the potential there, depending on, like I said, depending on the build. If I need a running back in the 5th round, like I can go there and feel okay with the upside swing. And there's gonna be ups and downs, but at that point, if I punted running back, I want to be a little bit like I want that volatility because I think that he's going to give us some 30-point weeks. I think he's going to give us some 5-point weeks. But if he's a passing down back, I think that he's going to catch 40, maybe 50 balls this year. And if we get lucky, he cribs a couple of them from like 50, 60 yards out.
Yeah.
That's just kind of his deal. So
right.
Like I said, I said it on live stream. I think he's going to be one of the most efficient running backs in the league on a per touch basis, kind of like Bucky Irving was last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I do, when you get into that shallower bench redraft and, could be completely wrong. And again, the floor could be right there right away and you could be good with it. But, like somebody like Xavier Worthy comes to mind last year, right? Like,
right.
Obviously some other things had to break and Ramondre fumbling or Ramondre getting even a little less of a role would be a thing to break for Treyveon. But like, I'm going to venture to say a lot of people who started with Xavier Worthy didn't end with Xavier Worthy. You know what I mean? So
yeah, sure.
Just like kind of the shallower bench and redraft sometimes can be a little tricky. I feel like with holding on to somebody like Henderson throughout the process, potentially could be completely wrong here. But he seems like somebody is a candidate who after like week 4 or 5, somebody drops him because they needed somebody else and they can't start Henderson and they got an injury. And then Henderson goes on to win your league. So if you're drafted Henderson, I think you need to be willing to ride out like a first couple of weeks of like, we're not really exactly sure how the usage is going to break out. Could be completely wrong. Could come out and just be absolutely can't put the genie back in the bottle week 1. And you're drafting him because of the league winning upside is why you're drafting him. At least that's why I'm drafting him. Right.
Yes. That's exactly why I'm drafting him. That's why I'm willing to, that's what I'm saying. I'm willing to reach is because I'm cool with, hey, it's going to be a little dud. By committing to taking him a little bit earlier or just making him that pick at 601, I'm saying, hey, cool. I know I'm going to have a couple more, maybe stalwart, like stable 10 to 12 point a game guys. I might have to take a Rachaad White that's in the 11th round or ADP. I might have to take a guy like just handcuffs. You want to have more running back. We want to have more in your running back portfolio drink than you would normally with a build like this. Like I'm not saying it's going to go great. I'm not saying that it's going to be every single week. Like everything that you said is 100% correct. And it comes with a warning label. Mm-hmm. But I think that this is going to be one of those guys that we look back and it's like, oh, well, yeah, that was a smash in the 5th round. So I'm a lot more bullish than I was previously. And a lot of it has to do with the consistent drumbeat, the out of practice every single day, that he's just unguardable when it comes to, in the passing game. And he's breaking long runs. And we haven't had a guy with this type of home run hitting ability and speed. And I'm wanting to be earlier to that party.
Yeah, I got 4 guys here at 504, 505, 506, 507 that I have a hard time passing on in lieu of Henderson, which is Harvey, Jameson Williams, Teterow, McMillan, George Pickens. All those guys make it hard for me if I'm in that area to not draft those guys, just because I feel like I kind of have a better idea of what I'm getting from start to finish with them. And all of them can offer some league winning upside as well.
Sure.
So after that, though, it does come in. So would you rather have James Cook get in the bag, or would you rather have Treyvon Henderson?
Oh, wow.
Are you a survivor? Are you not going to give up? Then you need to sign up for this new game called Fantasy Football Survivor. Instead of picking an NFL team to win each week, you set a new fantasy lineup. but you can only use a player once per season. Advance each week by staying out the bottom percentile and performing over expected. Drink. The contest is free to join. Sign up for the main event. Create your own leagues. What are you waiting for? Click the link in the description.
James Cook get in the bag, or would you rather have Treyvon Henderson?
I'm going to go with Treyveon.
Whew, James Cook's way up there in the ADP, 403.
Yeah.
So if you're ranking them, then you would say you definitely have Treyveon in the James Cook, James Conner, Chuba Hubbard area, or is lower than that? So you're
I'll tell you exactly, because I've been, as we're working through our rankings, I think I have James Cook at the 4-8, which is RB 18, and Treyveon's RB 20. So, and Treyveon's at the 5-3, as I'm working through these rankings, and James Cook's at the 4-8, like I said.
Yeah.
So that's for the public. Like, obviously, like, there's clicks that I want to make in the where I had, like, in my rankings that I want to make before I get to the fifth round. So James Cook wasn't really on my radar because I think he's a massive touchdown regression candidate. Mm-hmm. And, Treyveon has climbed up because I've seen him on an NFL field now. It could be a little reactionary. That's fine. I wholeheartedly understand that some people are just going to be staunch and be like, no, I don't change my opinion based on the preseason. It doesn't matter. But I am of the belief that this is signal, not noise.
Yeah. Final thing on this one, when we're looking at the projections, the quality projections that we have here from our man Quality Stats, he's got a 158-point floor is kind of where we're looking at for Treyvon Henderson. And we're looking at a 228-point ceiling. And then the average where he would come out to is about 193. That would put him at about player, let's see, 27 as far as running backs points overall scored if he went with the median average there.
Mm-hmm.
How's that feel for you?
I wouldn't feel great, but again, making that bet is a bet that I'm not betting on a median outcome for that. Like, that's the whole point, is like, I want to swing for the fences. And if I miss, that's fine. I have more running backs that can support me. I just would move him to my bench and move someone else into the flex spot or RB2 spot or wherever I'm building out a roster with more running back depth to account for the fact that, like, I could miss very badly in the fifth round on Treyvon Henderson.
Right. All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to another rookie here. We're not going to get too rookie crazy. We could have went Ibuka. We could have went Luther Burden here, but we went. I wanted to talk about Golden in this version. We're going to talk about Ibuka plenty. I'm sure through this entire process. We've already talked about him. We're going to talk about him more. Certainly still a riser, but Mathew Golden seems to me to be a nice riser here. Obviously, you've had a Jaden Reed injury, which seems like maybe he'll be back around week 1 anyway. Mathew Golden, the first round draft pick of the Packers, I feel like for me has had a very up and down off season as far as like how I feel about him, where I'm kind of putting him. But I find myself, as the season's growing closer and the reports are getting stronger, and he's going to be out there in 2 wide receiver sets and just making strong catches, looking good, looking the part, keeps climbing up the charts for me for guys that I'm kind of looking at. So I wanted him to make the list here. He's coming in, I believe, at 902 right now, currently in the ADP.
Yes, sir.
That would put him at wide receiver 48, 1 pick ahead of Emeka Egbuka. So Egbuka or Golden?
Egbuka or Golden? Yeah, Egbuka.
Okay. So how are you feeling about Golden? Because I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with the idea of putting Golden on a redraft team here. As a month ago, I was probably not as keen on it.
I mean, the opportunity is apparent, right? They need it's the old overused saying, like, if you have 1 alpha wide receiver, if you have 4 alpha wide receivers, you don't have any. If you have 4 quarterbacks, you don't have any. No, I'm kidding, but like, there's an opportunity here for him to come in and absolutely just Lad McConkey this thing and just blow it out of the water. That's a very real possibility, right? Like, I would make that bet with him. Like, there's a few guys that I would make that bet on, and he just lands in that category. So I'm fine I'm fine with Emeka Egbuka. I'm fine with Mathew Golden. If given the choice, I was higher on Emeka Egbuka, and they're both really good situations now that we have a little bit more clarity on what I think, what it's going to look like for Chris Godwin. He could start on the pup, to me, the situation is crystallizing for Emeka Egbuka. And again, you hear the consistent drumbeat of how positive, the building is about Emeka Egbuka. So, and the same thing for Mathew Golden. But I just personally, I like Egbuka, so I'm going to go with Egbuka.
Yeah, those two guys are starting to stick out like more and more sore thumbs. They're both, starting to climb rankings as we speak. As our mock drafts continue. Egbuka's up. Golden was actually down on the last version, but I think we're going to spin back up on the last two I've done. I've seen him go higher than this. So, you got him right around Cooper Kupp, which I could be okay taking Mathew Golden over Cooper Kupp, right?
100%. Yeah, that's not even for me.
I like Cooper Kupp a lot more than I think a lot of people. Is just like, hey, he's going to be like my fourth or fifth wide receiver, so I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'm taking Mathew Golden over Brandon Ayuk at this point. How about Josh Downs?
It's funny. I was doing an episode for Player Profiler, trade episode, and that exact question came up, and I went Josh Downs. So the reason being, hey, it's a little bit safer, and if that passing offense isn't absolutely dog water like it was last year, he still put up 13 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tyler Warren being there is actually good for him. Mm. Like, I think the weapon, like, he's able to operate in short space and create after the catch. I'm thrilled with that. And he has the ability to win down the field. I think he's a really good player. And I think that if that passing offense can be just not bottom 5, then he's going to be around 14 or 15 points a game.
Yeah, I think kind of could depend on how my wide receiver build was kind of working out there. I think I go Golden most times. I want to swing for the fences. I want to potentially get the number one receiver. I want to potentially get, Jordan Love's number one receiver as opposed to question mark number one receiver, which isn't, may turn into the quote unquote number one receiver for Indy. But I think Warren being in there, I think Pittman being in there. Downs was great last year. I like Josh Downs quite a bit, which is why I'm asking the question. But I think I'd be rolling with Golden and just shooting for upside, because by that point, most likely I'm not counting on either one of those guys. So I'm looking maybe for more ceiling than floor. But there's definitely some builds where I'd rather have the floor, and maybe that's Josh Downs at that point.
Right.
So
right.
Let's see.
I mean, it just like if you're stud wide receiver to start your draft, more of a zero RB build, then you probably go with Josh Downs, just so you have like a little bit of a safety net. Whereas, if you're going to count on that like up and down mercurial production, I think that you could definitely take a swing on one of the rookies and just kind of wait on the post by bump and call it good.
Right. Yeah. The median and the floor and ceiling outcome for Mathew Golden is, not super duper high in the model here. They got the low end being 63 points for Mathew Golden, the high end being 148 with a median of 106. So he's not loved by the projection redraft model here from Quality Stats. So I'd be against model there, whereas Downs is floor is 132, the ceiling's 213, just in comparison, and the median being 173 on that. So model says Chev on that one. So that makes me feel even better.
I mean, it's good. It's good that, somebody who's really, really sharp and was able to put those projections together, can come up with, a range of outcomes that works out in my favor. It makes me feel even better about it.
Of course. So, all right, let's keep it moving. Let's shoot over to a non-rookie here, and we got a couple to end the show. I want to talk JSN because, again, I came in being like, I don't love clicking the button on JSN. Frankly, I haven't clicked the button, but fast drafts and best balls in underdog and mocks, I've been clicking the JSN button quite a bit more. And I just, maybe it's the hype, maybe it's Maybelline, I don't know. I love what I'm seeing from the camp hype, and I've over the last month or two been really beating the drum for, not that I'm drafting Sam Darnold in 1 QB redraft, but I think in Dynasty and Superflex, like, solid second quarterback, and I think the system that they're going to run in Seattle really fits what Sam Darnold does extremely well, and he's familiar with it from the San Fran tree, kind of that Kubiak system that they're familiar with. So I think that really leans heavily with Sam. So Sam being comfortable makes me a lot more comfortable with JSN, right? Because obviously we saw JSN move into this, run a lot more out of the slot this past year, right? Because they were kings of the 11 was not actually Atlanta, LA, but Seattle was third, which is why that offensive coordinator no longer has a job. Because they don't want to run that much 11. It's a curious bunching of wide receivers in Seattle with Cooper Kupp and JSN, and then Torrey Horton, I think, is going to be, your third when you run 11. New Orleans ran 33% 11 last year, which we're saying New Orleans because their OC is in Seattle. So just trying to give you an idea. And 11 is when you have 3 wide receivers on the field, and that's important potentially for JSN. But look, I think JSN is just a dog of a receiver. I think that number probably ticks up a little bit from 33. I think you see some Horton on there and some Arroyo on there when they're in the 11, and maybe that's where you can get some production from JSN in the slot. But in 2023, I believe he had 2.57 yards per route run out wide from JSN. So still was productive and good from out wide. I think JSN is just a really good receiver. I do like him in the slot quite a bit, but it initially really maybe pushed me down and was kind of curious, but as things have gone on, I've gotten a lot more and more comfortable with clicking the button on JSN and feeling pretty comfortable about it. How are you feeling about the rise of JSN?
Well, if we're looking at what that offense usually does with like a true outside wide receiver, like the number one target in the offense, it's been a little bit different than Shanahan did it in Washington and, in Atlanta with Julio. But Clint Kubiak, again, off the old Shanahan, Kubiak, McShanahan block. This is 30 plus years of a philosophy just kind of moving and molding, and these guys adding to it. I'm good with JSN now. I had to make peace with this. It seems like for right now,
301 right now is the ADP, I believe. Sorry, I didn't lead off with that.
Yeah, 301 in the ADP. It's safe. Now, does he have, a top 5 ceiling? We can't say that, because when he got full-time snaps and a lion's share of targets, he was really good. So I think that I'm more comfortable with this click than I was at any other point in the offseason, because it is coming together. Sam Darnold, when he's protected, can deliver the ball. We saw him get the ball to not JSN, but Jay Jettas and Jordan Addison last year. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with this. I think that he's going to be able to deliver the ball to JSN. You shouldn't really have any concerns about his production level. I think he was 100 for 1,106 last year on 130 targets. So with him putting that up, and the only question is like, hey, is he going to be the focal point of the offense to where he's getting that alpha target share to where he goes from 130 to 150, 160, that elite target ceiling. So that's the only question I have. I don't have a question about his ability. I don't have a question. It's a system that's worked in several different locations. So I think he plays the Chris Olave role. Again, Clint Kubiak is coming from New Orleans, where he was the offensive coordinator last year. Whenever they decided to target Chris Olave, and heavily target him, it went pretty well. They just chose not to do it very often for whatever fucking reason. So if we've got JSN now, no concussion issues, if he's going to get a lot of targets, he's going to return on the 301 ADP. Like if we can lock him in for 130, 140 targets, he's going to give you 15, maybe 16 points a game, and he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver again.
Hey, real quick, if you're not in the free Discord channel, what are you doing? Come mock it up, because the F ain't for fuck it up.
The floor right now for JSN on the model prediction is 164.8, and the ceiling is 239.7. That's a solid ceiling right there, giving you a little kind of what the median average would be is 202 right there, putting them at, let's see here, sorry, it'd be like around wide receiver 23, 24.
Yeah. The median puts him at wide receiver 24?
23.
23? That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a fine median. I mean, that's a lower end. That's a lower end outcome. But I'm if that's the worst Jason they're gonna get, then that's fine. That's not. He's not gonna kill you. He's just not gonna be a league winner.
Right. Yeah, I think what's his actual ADP number right now for 301? What receiver would that be? Let's see.
I think that's like wide receiver
12. So
yeah.
That wouldn't necessarily be returning exactly what you were paying for it. I feel like last year the third round receivers didn't really pay off, but I feel like I feel pretty decent selecting JSN that he can be, weekly inside the top 24 and then give you wide receiver 1 weeks.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty comfortable with that. So, all right, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like I said, there's a proven history of production from the number one target, whether it's Julio, whether it's Pierre Garçon going back to his days in Washington with the now Commanders. If we're talking about in McVay's offense, Cooper Kupp for years, and now Puka Nacua. Yeah, like there's value in that role in that offense, and so he's a guy that I think that it's safe, but it's also it also could go better than wide receiver 12.
Yeah, what you get out of that Shanahan Kubiak thing is when it's rolling and it's going well, like the efficiency makes up for maybe some of the lack of potential pass volume.
Yes.
And so obviously you don't want to live off efficiency, but if it's a good offense that managed to put together efficient plays and explosives, which is kind of what they're cooking. I mean, think back to those first 2-3 weeks of New Orleans last year, right? Really blew the doors off everybody, coming out with a bunch of explosives. Those first 2 weeks wouldn't be a good comparison for putting him in the Chris Olave role, but it was because Shaheed was explosive over the top, right? Getting some big explosives there. So, I look at like a combo platter of like the Ayuk and Olave kind of role as what we could see a little bit from kind of JSN's usage in Seattle here, first year in that system. So, all right, let's move over to a running back. We talked some wide receivers, we talked some rookies. Let's go Tony Pollard. Big fan of Pollard, right? Coming in at 704 right now. Spears gets hurt, right? Clears up a little bit of air and path of how's this rotation going to work a little bit. Now Spears will be back, but it's a high ankle, so they say. And we've had some injuries kind of pile up for Spears throughout his first 2 seasons, right? I'm not saying that he's going to come back and get another injury. He cannot have another injury for 2 years, right? But what Tony Pollard has been offering pretty much the entire time is just insane value. And I think right now it keeps getting easier and easier to be excited about Tony Pollard, just on an awful team last year, getting all sorts of run, great pass catcher, great receiver, played receiver at Memphis, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, Spears has, even when he comes back, has some crazy skill set that Pollard can't have. Pollard, to me, I think is just going to be like a workhorse that you can get in the 7th round right now. And this offense should be improving somewhat. The offensive line should be improving somewhat. Now, our game's going to be all great for Tennessee. Now, there's going to be some games that are ugly still, right? Because they're still learning. They're still figuring some things out. But I think Cam Ward, even in those games that are maybe a little uglier, there's going to be some fight and some offensive production late in those games that Pollard could eat up.
The thing with Tony Pollard is that he's never going to be priced for what he can give you. I mean, last year he managed 260 carries and 1,000 yards for the third straight season. He only scored 5 touchdowns. He gave you another 40 or so receptions. That's available in the sixth round, right?
15 points a game.
Yeah. And I'm clicking the button. I literally just did this in our mock that we're doing right now for our, for ADP. And I really I was open to the idea, but I had let a little brain rot creep in the fact that, hey man, like maybe they split it with, and it's like, oh no, they're not doing that. They're going to give the ball to Tony Pollard a lot and then work Tyjae Spears in. And now we don't have that concern because Tyjae Spears is hurt again.
Missing time.
Tony Pollard is as solid as they come. I mean, if you're betting on a guy who's going to get 270 to 300 touches, sign me up.
Yeah. So would you rather have Pacheco, Tony Pollard?
Tony Pollard.
Same. Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard?
Tony Pollard.
I think I'm with you there. How about DeAndre Swift or Tony Pollard? It feels like the upside of what Swift could bring you could be a lot more fun, but I feel like I kind of know what I'm getting with Pollard. And if it's just a little better than, even if it just stays at 15 points a game was what you basically got with Pollard last year. If it went into 16 or 17, it'd be, oh my God, that's what you would love to get from DeAndre Swift, right?
Yeah.
So
you never really got those boom performances for Tony Pollard last year. Like you got the Miami Dolphins game.
Right.
Like that was early on in the season. And then the offense sucked so bad that you couldn't expect him to really give you a ton. Like we saw at the end of the year how explosive Tyjae was when he got to work, but it wasn't what you expected from a guy who has the explosive ability. I mean, like I said, we had, no performances over like 21.9 was his best performance, RB5 on the week. I think we can easily get some more 25 to 30 point performances, one to two, maybe even 3, depending on, what Cam Ward allows them to do. I think we're going to play a lot faster. I'm a Titans fan, if you guys didn't know that, by the way. Depending on how fast they're going to play, and he's going to be out there quite a bit. So you're talking about a guy who's going to dominate snap share. It's just on a much more porous offense than some other guys like a Chase Brown or something like that. That's kind of stylistically, those guys are very similar. It's just that, Chase Brown's on a top 3 offense and Tony Pollard's on a bottom 5 offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So floor play for Pollard, as far as the model is concerned, the projections rather, we got Tony Pollard at 156.5 and 249. That's kind of your high and low end. And then 203 is kind of that middle ground that you're looking at. And that would be a little better than Treyvon Henderson, right? So that'd be good for around like RB 25-ish.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
Oh, I'm rock solid with that. Has Swift a little one player ahead of him right there. Yeah. So it's they're kind of neck and neck. He'd be 203 to 205 with Swift, as far as what the projections are kind of saying from our man Quality over here. So, but yeah, both of those we've been loving Swift, and I've just been smitten with as much Pollard as I can get. And if you miss on you're going heavy running backs in those first couple of picks, and you only have a back or two through 7, Pollard is such a fun, easy, stress relieving click.
Solid.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go to Georgie Pickens coming in at 507. I think he has to make every one of Chev's lists. Got to have him. And obviously the drum beat's just getting louder and louder for Pickens. I think it's a Cowboys thing for the most part.
It's Cowboy bump.
The Cowboy bump. But I like this offense. I like Dak. CD obviously could be a thorn in the side on some games, but some games, Pickens might be a thorn in the side of CD. So how do you see this Pickens CD Dak Cowboys relationship kind of working out? And I know I don't have to ask already. I know you love that 507 ADP on George Pickens.
So I'm thinking, I go back and forth, and I'm like, okay. I legitimately believe that this is one of the 3 or 4 best wide receiver tandems in the league. And so with that, you have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. Devontae Adams averaged 17 points a game. Granted, it was with the Raiders and the Jets last year. Puka Nacua was 18.8. Jamar Chase was 22 points a game. T. Higgins was 18. Devonta Smith was 15 points a game in the most run-heavy offense in the NFL. AJ Brown was 16.7. There's zero reason why George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb can't be in that same pantheon. And so I'm expecting a breakout. I'm expecting him to finally deliver on the tantalizing promise that has been, the red zone experience of George Pickens for the last couple, like every so often, like 4 or 5 times a year, you'll get a highlight from George Pickens. It's just like, well, how the hell did he just do that? Like what just happened here, actually? And so I'm calling for the breakout. I think that this is the year that we finally get the payoff for George Pickens, because this is going to be one of the most run heavy teams. They were the fifth in first down passing attempts last year. I think that number is going to stay the same, because I don't have any faith in them to try to run the ball. I mean, Brian Schottenheimer is not his father. So they're going to air it out. Dak was QB3 with Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator. Brian Schottenheimer is now the head coach and still the play caller, and Clayton Adams comes in to kind of help clean up the offensive line. So yeah, I love the 507 ADP. I love George Pickens. I have always loved George Pickens. And now that he's in an offense that will actually use and utilize his skill set, it's just George versus George, like you've said so many times before.
Right. Yeah. So we're seeing 198 kind of being the average median. That'd be, couple off of what we just were talking about with JSM with 202, the ceiling being 233 and the floor being 162, coming in at the mid 5th. Would you Devonta Smith or George Pickens?
Oh, George Pickens.
Same.
Yeah.
How about DJ Moore, who goes a few picks ahead of him, or George Pickens?
I have George Pickens ahead of both of them in my ranking. So George Pickens.
Yeah, I believe I do too. Just double checking. I got him in the same tier, DJ Moore and George Pickens. I have George Pickens ahead of the next tier above Devonta Smith in my rankings as well. Cortland Sutton or Georgie P. I think I'm going Sutton there on that one.
Yeah. I can't. There's something there. They got something brewing over there in Denver, and Cortland got paid. They want Cortland to be the guy. He's locked in for 130 targets. I think that he's the number one target earner in the offense. They've added weapons to free him up a bit more, because again, he had the 0 target game, and then he was lights out last year, like basically around 17 points a game. So I can't, the floor and the ceiling there for what he could grow into from not only a target share perspective, but the return on investment. I can't go George there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's safer and the ceiling similar.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 more to wrap this up, and we'll try to keep these a little more brief. One guy, keeping it brief because, but really both of these guys, like, not a whole lot to say. I feel like it's either going to really work out or it's going to be a bummer. And Ricky Pearsall is the next one, and I view Ricky Pearsall right now as kind of like that last click that's like, oh, I need one more receiver that I think could really come out here and just blow the doors off, be lights out, be a number one, get that kind of number one target share, and feel pretty strong about it week in, week out. It's Ricky Pearsall right now, right?
Yes.
And obviously a lot of that has to do with what's left over there in San Fran. Ayuk's going to be out for a while. It seems they've got the receiver room is just unhealthy. You had Jacob Cowan coming on, he's banged up. You had Jordan Watkins coming on, he's banged up.
Got a high ankle sprain.
You have Juwan Jennings
calf strain.
Maybe he has a calf. Maybe he's got a bank account strain. I don't know. But then you also have Demarcus Robinson, who I think could be a good player for San Fran, but he got a DUI. So I don't know what his legal situation is quite going to be to start the season, right? So Ricky came on, had an unfortunate rookie season, but then we had some good games last year where we really saw Ricky shine. The camp looks good. He looks healthy. I just think by default, when San Fran is going to be able to scheme their guys open, they're going to be able to get their guy. And when the volume has to kind of go to a guy between him and Kittle, I think both of those guys are just going to be spoon-fed easy numbers week in, week out.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky P. I was working through this earlier. I think I've got him wide receiver 27 right now, and so I've come up. This is the same thing that I said about JSN. Until Brandon Ayuk comes back, it's going to be a very concentrated target share between the number one wide receiver in San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle. And we saw when Ricky Pearsall was a full-time player and integrated into the game plan, he was really good last year. So I'm not saying he's going to be that good every game. It would be ridiculous. I think he was 140 and then 140 against the Lions and then another 100-yard game against the Cardinals maybe. And so I think that he's going to be really good. I've moved him up to the wide receiver 27 in my rankings.
Yeah, I definitely don't have him that high. So you taking him over Jerry Jeudy?
Yes.
You taking him over? I'm not even gonna add Jalen Waddle.
Yes. Yes.
Taking him over Devonta Smith.
Now,
so to be fair, you don't have to take him over Devonta Smith currently, right? So that's kind of the rub with rankings are you need ADP to be displayed next to the rankings, so you're not 3 rounds ahead of something because you like this guy a lot, right? So you don't
like I have
you could get another pick or two in before you have to take the difference of Pearsall and Smith right now.
Yeah, Devonta is my
in general. If you're just talking about who you like a little more, would you say you like Ricky for the season a little more?
For the season, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a bit more bankable pass volume. And I don't see a scenario he could get game scripted out, but he's not going to get game scripted out of the passing tree. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the Devonta Smith bad games are going to be, 4 points. It's going to be, he's not going to be a part of the game plan because they run the ball 40 times. They get down to the goal line. They run the tush push. He's going to be extremely efficient, but you just said we don't want to live just on efficiency.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's a team to live on efficiency with, it's the Shanahan kind of tree efficient. Like it's been proven. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I was talking about Devonta Smith. Like if there's going to be a little bit more pass volume for the 49ers than I think there will be for the Eagles. The Eagles are one of the most efficient per drop back teams in the NFL, but I don't see them switching their identity, the way that they want to play football as much. And I can't get Devonta Smith to 125 to 130 targets. There's a very easy world where, Ricky Pearsall's well above 110 targets this year. And that's going to be a stretch for Devonta Smith, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like I said, when I get into that 7th round, man, I'm looking for a receiver. Ricky Pearsall is always at the top of the queue for me. I'll go a little early on Ricky. It's him and Jacoby Myers kind of when I get into there. If I don't need the Tony Pollard and the Swift, my attention immediately turns to Jacoby Myers and Ricky Pearsall there. So, all right, last guy, Deebo Samuel, because I've been out, and that's probably my dynasty brain going, nah, we're good. Don't have him in a whole lot of best balls. Don't have him. I've recently switched over to being a Deebo truther because it just seems like if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Who cares? But all intents and purposes, camp hype is good. I don't know how much preseason we'll see of him. We don't know what the plight of Terry McLaurin is, although it would be awfully ridiculous here in the next couple of days if you don't see Terry McLaurin getting something worked out to be finally where you're at right now with be the most Washington thing ever to let this get in the way.
Yes.
Even though there's new ownership and everything looks like it's on the up and up. But Deebo coming in at like a late 7th, 8th round pick right now. There's probably going to be some games where it's not super great for Deebo and maybe he gets injured. Maybe there's, but he looks pretty solid. The hype's good. Saying some days he looks like the best player on the field. Obviously, no Terry. But man, oh man, I've been, I think I just, one of the mocks we just did, I went ETN Deebo on the turn and on 7-8-1, and I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, that was y'all's 500, the FFPC startup. Yeah.
No, I think that was the just a mock that we did.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Deebo represents a value. I think that the way that they're going to probably utilize him makes him a value just because there's nobody else that's going to generate much after the catch for them. Zach Ertz isn't going to give you much after the catch. He's just going to catch it and fall down. He's like the tight end version of Tyler Lockett. Terry McLaurin is going to win on in break. He's going to be able to create something, but again, we don't know what's going to happen with Terry McLaurin. So right now, Deebo in the range that he's going, I'm comfortable with it. I think that if he's healthy and we're not dealing with, fat Deebo or, Deebo recovering from pneumonia.
Deebo or hamstring Deebo or,
Right. Like for the games that he's healthy this year, he's going to produce. And that's my take, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen Deebo be really, really good in San Fran and be well worth what you drafted him, or he's well outside the top 24 of receivers by the time the season ends. And 2 times it's been really good. A bunch of the other times it's been good for chunks and then not so great for the lifetime of Deebo Samuel. So, but it does seem like that's a team where could really thrive with somebody like Deebo. And I will say, when Deebo's right and rolling, he was the engine for what San Fran did. It really, really provided an identity. I think it would be a great sort of identity to kind of get with Washington, right? You kind of have Jaden Daniels and this crazy fun run style, but I didn't see on the offensive side of things really a physicality being a moniker or a feather in their cap. And I feel like Deebo could really give them that if you can get a good, solid, healthy version of Deebo here at his age 29 or whatever it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no question about it. They traded for him, and if he is healthy and motivated to prove everybody wrong, this is definitely gonna return value.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's wrap this one up. We're gonna do some mocks. We're gonna be live doing all sorts of good stuff. So make sure you're keeping it locked and loaded on the Redraft channel. We appreciate all the support so far. It's been a fun little start, and we'll be rocking all in season long with week to week rankings and waiver wires, and we're gonna have all sorts of everything you need to go through your redraft season with Chev over there, really manning the wheel. So, Chev, anything else on the way out?
Man, as I always leave you, there's ball watchers and ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly. Till next time.
Peace.